Welcome back to the Vince Salerno podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Vince Salerno, and today it's going to be a very fun episode because we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, somebody who has been on the podcast before, but not since April 25th, 2018. And if you know which episode I'm talking about, that's episode 7, featuring Miley Durbin. And here with me today is Miley Durbin. Or
hello.
Or should I say Miley Reyna? What do you want to go by?
Yes. You can go. I just recently got my driver's license updated, so I think I can officially go by Reyna now.
Okay. All right. Miley Reyna, formerly Miley Durbin.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Of course. I'm happy to have you on. I'm sorry it took so long to get you back on. Almost, more than 5 years, I feel like.
Yeah, that's insane.
I know.
It's crazy to think about.
You may have gotten your name changed, but you'll always be Miley D. Durbin to me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's very, very fond.
Yes, of course. For those of you who don't know Miley, we went to college together. She's a college chum of mine. She made a great short film with a couple other friends of mine at school called Chirps. Is it Chirps, Buzz, and Other Sensations, or Chirp?
It's
Buzz,
just singular. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. Chirp, Buzz, and Other Sensations. Great short film, still like one of like my favorite things to come out of not just our class but JP Catholic in general.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say.
Yeah. I've kind of been doing it for you, but is there anything you want people to know about you?
Yeah, so I live in Los Angeles and I work as an assistant video editor. For like a small media company. So that's what I do. Recently got married. So that's what all the hubbub about the name change was about. So kind of adjusting to like a new phase of life. But yeah, that's kind of all the intro, I guess. I'm also I don't know if you talk about being Catholic on here. I'm also Catholic,
yeah, we do.
So that's something.
We do.
Okay, so yeah, that's something Vince and I also have in common. So yeah. Mm-hmm. That's me.
as I said in my Happy Friday short film, Body of Christ. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
I feel like I did, but I'm struggling to like remember.
It was the one with Lawrence McDonald and James Powers, and it was during Lent.
Oh, that's okay. That's right. Oh my gosh, yeah, that one was great.
Yeah, it was a commentary on being like too judgmental as Catholics, especially during something like Lent.
That's right. That was a fun one. I remember now.
Thank you. I remember loving writing that line for Lawrence where he's just like I'm Catholic too. Hey man, Body of Christ. All right.
Oh man, that seems like it was so much fun to make.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So as you're aware, and my audience is aware, the podcast has taken a major shift into not just talking about movie news, in which we're going to get into a lot of that fun stuff today, but we are talking a lot about culture. We're talking about the solutions, as opposed to just the issues, because there's a lot of people talking about the issues. A lot of people are not taking active steps to come up with solutions or try to find solutions to these problems. Sort of my coming out of this whole situation was during Lightyear. When I said like I wasn't going to see Lightyear. I don't agree with inserting these LGBTQ themes into children's content. Adult content, consenting adults, I don't care. Like, go nuts. I don't care. But like kids, let's leave them out of this argument. Got a lot of differing opinions on that, and Miley was one of the few people that, I mean, I won't say exactly what we talked about, but we had a great dialogue privately between the two of us about her thoughts on that. And we didn't necessarily agree on everything, but again, it did mean a lot that I was able to have a civil conversation with you about my issues with that and your opinion on that, and still come out of it being good friends. But all that is to say, there is obviously like the culture and the culture wars is a big thing that's going on right now. What is your take on the culture war? Like, where do you stand on these issues? And you can get as far into it or as little into it as you want.
Yeah. So I guess full transparency. I don't know how to say. I guess I don't really like. I know lots of people talk about it, and there's it's a topic of like YouTube channels and podcasts and stuff. It's not really something I really dive into, kind of as the conversation is right now. And I think part of it is because from what I have glimpsed like certain people talking about it and listening to people talk about it.
You're not like an active participant in the dialogue.
Yeah, but I am aware of some of the talking points, the issues that's been brought up. And I think for me, it kind of just feel as it stands right now, I should clarify. It kind of feels very like it sort of trains your brain to see the negative or the bad, or I guess the agenda in everything. And I feel like if you're looking for something, you're going to find it. So I love just watching to enjoy. I don't want to go in not liking something or nitpicking like, oh, let me see if I can comb this apart and find the message that I don't like. Or and I think too it allows me personally to sort of go into something and just let it kind of wash over me. And if there is a message or a theme or a moral that is kind of blatant and it rubs me the wrong way, I can just be like, oh, okay, that was there. I don't think I like that. But then also, if it has something positive, or if it connects with me, or if it offers hope, I can let that resonate with me and sort of uplift me, and not get hung up on well, they had this line about straight white guys, so I just, I'm going to write it off. Or oh, well, there's, something about wokeness or whatever you want to call it.
Secret agenda.
Yeah, so I'm just going to write it off. If there's a bigger picture of something positive that I can take away from it, I like doing that. And from what I've heard about conversations of the culture war, it feels very I'm going into everything looking for XYZ, and if it's there, that's the agenda trying to infiltrate. And I don't know, it's just a lot of loaded language and aggressive coming after your kids. And I don't know, I don't want to participate in stuff that's sort of, I guess, fear mongering, and I don't want it to, I guess, taint the way that I consume media, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was the answer you were looking for, but because I definitely see how, it's not like I think that, oh yeah, the what our media represents that we appreciate and we value, that's everything's totally fine. I don't see a problem with it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is the conversation as it stands. I have some issues with that itself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you say you're aware of the issues? You're just not someone who feels like they need to bring attention to it in a like with what I do, a more explicit.
Yeah. I'd say so, but I think I'm aware of the like the talking points of what the issues are, but I also think some of them are kind of like blown out of proportion in my opinion, and it's like I think there's better ways we could focus like our attention to. And I think also if you call something negative long enough, it kind of loses its meaning. So I don't like to throw around stuff that's, oh, that's, you know, racist, or that's bigotry, or that's whatever. It's like if those words get used like too much, or and you can insert any adjective in there, then it kind of loses its meaning, and then it's like, okay, well, so I kind of get picky with what I call out, I guess, if that makes sense.
What are some examples of movies or even TV shows that you've seen put through the ringer in terms of like wokeness or things like that you disagree with?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah. So, okay. So for example, with me, a lot of people, in fact, recently, I don't know why this is, I think it's kind of a dumb argument, but a lot of people have been claiming that Toy Story 4 is woke because Bo Peep is like strong, capable,
I see.
toy, and the fact that like Woody doesn't know what he's doing and he's like an idiot for most of the film. I absolutely disagree with that, because to me, the point of that movie was that Woody was entering a new world within the Toy Story universe, one that he wasn't familiar with, which was like Bo is completely detached from any human connection, and she's learned to survive. So of course she's going to be tough. She's going to be more capable. Yeah. She understands this world better than Woody, and Woody it's not that Woody isn't capable, but he's kind of out of his league in a way. And like when she loses her sheep because Woody gets like over anxious and thinks like, oh, Bonnie's in the shop right now, we got to get Forky, we got to go. That caused their whole plan to that caused the plan to almost be jeopardized, because now they have to rescue Forky and her sheep. And that wasn't like, oh, Woody's an idiot. Woody's a white man. We need to down with the white man. It was it was a story thing. It was the fact that Woody is not used to this world, this way of living, and Bo knows how dangerous it is, and she's the only one that within that group that knows how to get through it. And another example is like the throwaway line in the Batman, where
that's I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where Catwoman talks about like, you know, this like rich white men or straight white men or something like that. It's like, yeah, I didn't like that line in the moment, but
the whole movie.
Do I think the whole movie is a piece of garbage, or the whole movie is like emanating this agenda that white men are terrible? No, in fact, it's probably the most redemptive Batman story I've seen in a long time. I mean, those are two examples of movies that I really like, and after like watching them several times have decided, okay, I understand the argument for those movies potentially being woke, but I don't agree, especially on the Toy Story forefront. So is there anything that you've seen like that has been, again, put through the woke ringer that you disagree with?
Trying to think, because again, I'm not used to like, I don't know if this is the best example because it is a little more on the nose, but the most recent thing I can think of is I've been watching The Last of Us. I don't know if you watch that show.
I've had a couple friends ask me or tell me to or recommend it, and I'm still debating if I'm going to. But what's your take on it?
So I feel like, and I'm sure everyone knows like the context of there's an episode that follows a gay couple, and there's another episode where there's another gay. Well, I don't know if they're officially a couple, but there's like a crush there. But anyways. Obviously there was like a bunch of people saying, oh, it's woke, but I don't know if like just having people like in something necessarily qualifies it for being woke. And the one-off episode, the way I saw it was just like we were just following two specific characters, and even looking at like the way of life in context of like the rest of the apocalypse was very different, because they were able to basically find like a sanctuary and guard off like anyone trying to come, and you know, the zombies, or the clickers as they're called in the show, weren't able to get in because of all these traps and stuff. So it was like, oh, this is different, because we're used to following characters that are trying to fight them off head on and like trying to survive, and it's like, oh, here's someone who like built like a fortress and is trying to have like somewhat of a normal existence, and then he finds someone who basically joins him in that. And so even though the relationship was explicitly gay, I took that more as like, there's people out there who are gay who exist, and it's just, we're just following their story. I don't know if like just because there's a character in something, that doesn't, I personally don't,
their mere existence doesn't make it woke.
Yeah, or it doesn't mean there's like an agenda. It's just kind of exploring story, and there's a bunch of different people from lots of different walks of life that have stories. And so I know that was different than like the examples you gave, but I think I think it's just kind of just easy to, that's an example I think of something where it's like it checks a box, like, oh, gay people automatically woke, and it's like, so I mean, people with that lifestyle exist, and I feel like it's just representative of like, yeah, you're gonna find people like this among you.
It's almost, it's almost like to someone who is very sensitive about that, it's almost like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah,
like the fact that it's gay, therefore woke, therefore not watching it.
Right. And I feel like too, agendas, I think, should be more than just, oh, this demographic exists, therefore. I feel like it would be the same as like if you had like a Catholic character in something, and they were just like, you just showed them going to mass, practicing their
living
faith.
Their life,
yeah, and then someone was like, this conservative media is like shoving religion down our throats, and it's like, we're just showing you that this is someone who like, this is the way they live their life, and this is the way they, you know, it's not like they're turning to the screen and saying like, you have to be this way. So
you're a bigot.
Right.
You don't like this.
Right. So I think that's kind of an example of like, it just gets the automatic, like, nope, it checked a box, therefore I'm throwing it out the window. I feel like there should be more like media literacy of like, okay, what is this trying to say? What is this, you know, because of course there are like agendas and messages and stuff that gets made, but I feel like there's a lot more nuance that should be brought in. And just because something has, again, just kind of easily checks the box, I don't think that necessarily warrants the woke label on it. Especially because, again, the whole episode was centered on like, oh, all of this is very different than like our main characters who are in the trenches, who are vulnerable, who are fighting things off. It's like, no, these are like survivalists, and they were able to build like, okay, how can I live off the land and like by myself, but also build a fort. So it's like the whole thing just, it was just kind of, it felt just like a character study. So that's how I took it.
Yeah, there's more to the story than just these people are gay.
Yeah, it's just, you know, how did they find a way to kind of survive the apocalypse, and also like just the idea of human connection in something that's so desolate. Yeah, and I think too, it's it's important to see the humanity in things, and there can still be something you can take away from that, or even connect with, even if it's not something like that's not a lifestyle you agree with or condone. You can still recognize, like, okay, I still can sympathize with the heartache or the emotion or the struggle here, because they're human beings and I'm a human being. So again, I kind of like to see things through that lens of, like, what can we connect on, or what can resonate with me, instead of, oh, I have a reason to, like, dismiss
Jumping
it. Yeah.
A
Yeah, I have a reason to dismiss it.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my take on that.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand that. I'm still wrestling with whether I'm going to watch it, because a lot of people have told me to watch it, and you know, on the surface, some of those things did concern me. And it really isn't a matter of, like, oh, if I'm not gonna watch it, I'm just gonna hate on it. If I'm not gonna watch it, I am just gonna let it be, which is kind of I think I said to you earlier, like, I don't really care about these things in adult content, because adults are consenting, and if they really don't want to watch it, if they don't want to see that, they don't have to watch it, and, like, that's fine. What I draw the line on is if this is, like, put in kids content, and that's the things that I get really passionate about. But obviously, The Last of Us is a show obviously geared more towards adults. I mean, any kids that are playing those video games have to be, like, at least 13
even
years
then
old.
it's bloody. There's a lot of, like, swearing. It's also just emotionally, like, stressful and grim. So I definitely wouldn't let kids watch it for sure, for a multitude of reasons. But
and I think sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll save it. It was a question, but I want to save it for.
Okay, sure. I think the biggest hang up is obviously just, you know, being a Catholic, you have certain opinion about those things. And again, people misconstrue that just because you're Catholic and you don't agree with homosexuality doesn't mean that you hate people who struggle with that. It's about the act and the sin, not the individuals. And I think we lose sight of that. I think that becomes a focal point in the battle of the culture war, the battle of wokeness, is like, oh, they just make this, they talk about this, or they make the stand because they just hate us. And it's like, no, I'm not going to get into it right now, but there are, like, spiritual and very deep truths behind why in the Catholic faith that is wrong. It doesn't mean I'm going to go up to every gay person I see, or every gay television show or movie that exists, and be like, nope, you don't count. That's not what we should be doing, period. It's, you know, it's something that I'm still figuring out how to approach, but obviously, you know, as it said, you know, if you go out and do all these things in the world but don't have love, what's the point?
Absolutely.
It's that desire to want to imitate Christ in the best way possible, and for people to know Christ, and hopefully therefore understand why, as Catholics, you know, we believe the things we believe. But again, you know, people also have to come to these realizations on their own. There's only so much you can lead, as they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, you know? So, I'm still wrestling with whether I want to check out the show or not. I never really had a connection to The Last of Us to begin with, but I've heard a lot of really good things about it. So, but you just gave me another very interesting, another good pitch for it. So I got a lot of pitches that I have to go through in my mind.
Yeah, well, it's very well done, but it is, like, emotional. There's a lot of times it ends and I'm like either welled up with tears or I'm like frustrated or so it's not like an easygoing watch.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure.
don't add that to your watch list if that's not what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I'd much prefer watching the other Pedro Pascal hit on TV right now, The Mandalorian.
my husband was rewatching season 1 the other day,
Oh,
so
cool. Has he watched the
he's
first
excited.
episode of season 3?
I don't think so, but I need to ask because we have opposite work schedules, so it's very possible he could. But.
Yeah. Cool. What was it you wanted to? Yeah. What was it you wanted to ask?
So this is just like for I guess clarification and just kind of picking your brain when you talk about like shows or movies with like certain subject matter and like I'm trying to see if excuse me I'm trying to see if or I'm trying to figure out if that's something I want to watch or not. Is that coming from like the angle of supporting something with content in it that you don't agree with, or is that more like if this doesn't align with my faith or my views, then I don't want to consume it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I understand. I'll try to answer it best way possible. So I agree with the opinion that like every piece of entertainment has an agenda. Sometimes it can be that of like wokeness, whether intentional or unintentional. Sometimes that can be from the opposite end of wokeness, or like a conservative or a liberal point of view. And sometimes, and this is my preference 95% of the time, the agenda is just to entertain. And I think as artists, as filmmakers, that's our number one, at least my number one objective, is to just make something that's entertaining. Because there's ways to move the soul through very basic, very relatable stories that doesn't get into things that may be seen as controversial in some people's eyes. If there is something that's like, for example, I haven't watched the past several MCU films in the theaters at all. Even like Thor: Love and Thunder, I didn't see Wakanda Forever, and I did see Ant-Man, but those two I did not see. Thor, I heard just wasn't good, and then I heard there was some. I heard there was some just LGBT stuff in there, and I just thought, that's okay. I don't really need to see that. And then the same thing with Black Panther. Black Panther was kind of a lot of different opinions. I didn't really like the direction they were going in with not recasting T'Challa. I wasn't a fan of some of the more agenda-driven plot points in the movie that I heard about. And I don't know. I'm kind of not burnt out, but just very the quality of MCU films, I think, is just kind of fluctuating. So there were a lot of differing opinions or differing reasons for why I didn't see those two movies. But yeah, I guess I would say if there is like something like Lightyear, which I think is probably the best example of what you're asking, that really bugged me, not just because it was something that was, in a franchise that I care deeply about. It's like the inspiration for getting into this industry. But I do think there is a overarching agenda at Disney, and not a good one. Whether that was intentional or unintentional remains to be seen, because I don't think a lot of these studios are actually aware of the actual issues. Most of these big studios just glom on to what is publicly acceptable or what's trending because they want to make money. I don't think a lot of studios actually understand like the spiritual, humanity-based issues that we're discussing when it comes to the culture war. They just see, oh, well, everybody else is embracing LGBTQ stuff, the Black Lives Matter movement, the straight white male, anti-straight white male movement. Like let's just glom onto that and see where it takes us. So like those things I'm very leery of. And I mean, I really attribute my wife to kind of helping me see through some of those things, because I think as audience members, we do have a lot of sway over the culture just with our wallets. Like what we choose to pay for to see is meaningful. And I'm not necessarily saying you should pay to see one thing or another. I know that I would much rather pay to see a Top Gun Maverick as opposed to I can't even think of a good example, but
just over everything else.
just over anything that is explicitly woke, because I do think that there is an explicit agenda there, depending on the company too. And I do think that, especially when you're trying to target kids first and foremost, there are a lot of parents, at least half of your audience, that is going to be upset if you are putting those themes in your movies, especially for a company like Disney, where it really does benefit them to appeal to the masses. Chris, I don't know if you've heard of Chris Gore, but he's a YouTuber. He's a film critic. I think he's a filmmaker too. He had a great idea I heard on a podcast he was on, that Disney should make like a separate label called like Disney Sparkle or something like that. And his name, not mine. I didn't pick that. I don't necessarily think that's a great name, but he called it Disney Sparkle, so I'm going to call it Disney Sparkle. And make that your like LGBT banner where you can release films on, and at least give audiences a explicit choice that they can make. And you allow people to, if you want to see the traditional stuff, the traditional stuff that Disney makes without worrying about those themes in there, you're more than welcome to. If you want to see films that associate with those themes, then the Disney Sparkle brand is right up your alley. And you put them out in theaters. You don't dump them on Disney Plus like they seem to do with every bad thing that they make. You put them out in theaters and you give them a fair chance and you just let the cards fall where they may. If it's a success, then Disney keeps going with it. If it's not, then maybe they take a different direction. But another thing is, sometimes people think that Disney is kind of being nefarious in this, because they put these things in their films without telling the audience, and being, because I had a friend who walked into Lightyear not even knowing that there was going to be, like, brought her 10-year-old to see Lightyear and did not know there was going to be a gay or lesbian romance, and it caught her off guard because she wasn't ready to tell her 10-year-old about those issues, or introduce those issues, or those, I shouldn't say issues, but those themes to her child at that point. And so she's found it to be a very like nefarious thing, that, albeit she wasn't paying attention to the news, obviously, because that was everywhere, and even I was talking about it. But someone who's not in this culture war bubble that is constantly seeing these things and consuming these things and talking about these things, she went in totally blind, thinking, oh, it's a Buzz Lightyear Pixar movie. I'm gonna take my kid to see it. He'll love that. It's about space rangers and Buzz and all that. Seeing that, totally caught off guard, and not wanting to talk to her kid about those issues on her time, in the way and when she wanted to, specifically. I think that is, if it was intentional, then that's very nefarious to me. If it's not, then I guess if it's not, then it's not. But yeah, it's kind of a complicated thing, because you don't want, especially with kids, again, that's, I know I've said that a lot, but that really is where I draw the line. Like, Disney should be targeting families and children, period. Let these other studios take on, again, like the adult films. You want to do like a movie like Bros, let it come out. Let it cater to adults, and let's see who wants to see it. And people didn't turn out to see it, and it bombed. I don't think that's, I mean, I'm assuming that catered to the LGBT audience, but it bombed because a lot of people probably just didn't want to see that. They didn't want to see, I mean, I've heard it was a very sexually explicit movie, which I'm also just not a fan of in general, like borderline pornographic. That's another issue for another day. But there is something to be said about why those movies pertaining to those issues performed the way they did. And I'm not saying that it has to, that they can't exist, but clearly a wide audience like the ones they were targeting did not turn out for movies like that. And like, that does have to be talked about to some degree. I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, the fact that it was a complex answer, I think just is more the reason why I wanted to ask, like, just kind of your thoughts and clarifications on it. So.
Yeah, it is a complicated thing, because you want to be, in everything you do, you want to do it in love, but you also don't want to compromise your own belief system. And that's something that I wrestle with every issue. It's like,
oh, absolutely. It's a very hard tightrope to walk. Yeah. So for sure, I totally agree.
Yeah, basically, like short answer is, if you're trying to sell it to kids and families, then I would cater to the widest audience possible. If you're not, and you're selling it to adults, and there's a market for adults who are into, like, we'll just say specifically the LGBTQ themes, have at it. I don't necessarily think it should exist because of my beliefs, but it's not my world. It's not my domain, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
God's will be done.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, make it and let the cards fall where they may.
That's a good, I think that's a good distinct. Yeah, that answers my question.
Cool. Great. Wow. That took a lot longer than I thought, but that was great.
Oh yeah.
That was a great,
this is great stuff.
Conversation.
For sure.
Yeah. Let's take a quick ad break, and we'll be right back talking about something that we're both very passionate about, the Scream franchise. So stay tuned. Okay. All right, we're back. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring Miley back on the show again is that we both are big fans of a particular franchise. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I'm saying this, because I don't typically go for these types of movies, but we're talking about the Scream franchise. And we both have had very strong opinions about Scream 5, or Scriffum, as I like to call it. And the future of that franchise, which is going to continue in a week upon the recording of this show, Scream 6, Roman numeral 6, which is a first for this series, which is, I don't know if that was an intentional, like, hey, let's call it Scream IV, or if it was just like, oh, it fits into the M, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's a cool branding trick. I don't know. I don't know why I'm picking a bone about that specifically, but just to set the stage, Miley, what is your opinion of and your history with Scream?
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. Because I do love, like, the horror genre, more the, like, older stuff, but so My history is okay. So when I was younger, the AMC channel would have their like Friday night, like they marathon horror movies and stuff, and my parents were
Yes.
yeah. So
Yes.
we'd always have that on. That's how I got my intro to a lot of like 80s and 70s horror movies that I love now. Especially because they were on television, so my parents didn't have to worry about like explicit stuff, so I could be a youngin and still watch, if that makes sense. So it was a great intro
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So, but one of the ones that they would play a lot for some reason was the third Scream movie, and I just remember like
Mm.
my parents would be flipping through it. My mom would be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, this movie's crazy. It's like they're filming a movie about the events that happened in the first one, but it's like within a movie. It's crazy." And so I thought that kind of novelty was fun.
Wait. Your mom showed you Scream 3, or is that what you said?
Yeah, well, she didn't like show it to. It was like flipping through and oh yeah, this is a great franchise. Like yeah, let's just leave it on. My
That's so
mom
funny.
my mom like got me into. She's like the reason I love Halloween, Tim Burton. Like she yeah
Oh, that's cool.
yeah
That's really cool.
yeah. So I credit a lot um to her, and then my dad too. He loved the big horror movies of the 80s and stuff. But it was just one of those things. It was on, and so she was like, "Oh, this is a fun movie," and like would just keep it on. But it was great because I could watch it, but nothing really got spoiled for me because I didn't know the names or the lore, I guess, if that makes sense. And so I eventually got
Hmm.
old enough because I'd seen that movie quite a bit, and I got old enough, and my parents both were like, "I think you're old enough. You need to like watch the original one. Like we need to like sit you down." And so they rented the first movie
Hmm.
and showed it to me, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, mind blown!" Like the twist totally got me. I thought it was great. hmm
Wow.
And then
That's
yeah, and
awesome.
then I saw the
Cool.
second one, and then I'd seen the third one, um, and then I rented the fourth one when it came out. Um, because yeah, it didn't get a lot of advertisement to see it in theaters. So I was like, oh yeah, this is out. So I rented it and watched that. And then I went opening weekend to see the fifth one. So that's my brief. I
Nice.
think it's a lot of
Nice.
fun, and Sydney is my favorite final girl. So I think that's why it's always a beloved franchise in my heart. And it's fun enough that I can just kind of pop it on and rewatch it. But then it's also such a good movie that like if
Hmm.
you want to sit down and actually watch it, you can still get so much out of it.
Yeah. You actually got to meet Neve Campbell.
I did. I saw
How was
her at
that?
Monster Palooza last year. It was crazy. Well, I waited in line for like 3 hours. Um, and it was like a 3-day convention, and it was the last day, and I was in the last 10 minutes of her line on her last day, so you could tell she was very tired. She was really sweet.
Hmm.
You could just kind of tell that when I said Sydney's my favorite final girl, that she's like, I've literally heard this all weekend. But she's very sweet, very down to earth. Um, yeah, it was cool because I would go on TikTok and saw other people who saw her that weekend and post, and she was just all smiles. And when she'd sign your thing, she'd, would ask people like, is there like a certain quote you want me to write? I got her to sign the
Oh,
I got
that's
her to
cool.
sign the sleeve of my uh I have like a triple feature Scream DVD, and so I got the sleeve
Oh,
out, and she
cool.
signed the top. So when I meet Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard, I'll get them to join her signatures. They do conventions all the time. They were also there,
Nice.
but which was unreal. But
Yeah.
they do conventions all the time, so I'll get them at some point.
Nice. What was the quote you had her write on the sleeve?
Well, for me, she kind of just wrote again. She was tired, so I think which I didn't mind. It was uh oh my gosh, why am I blanking? This is embarrassing. Um oh, it was not in my movie. It's at
Yes.
the end of the first one.
I
Yeah,
love that line.
yeah. not in my movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great one. She's iconic.
Oh yeah.
And that was literally days before the news broke that she wasn't going to be in the new one.
Oh wow.
So that was really like, yeah. My friends joked with me that like, Miley, you convinced her that she saw her worth and she decided not to come back for a low balling budget. And I'm like, no. She probably saw how much money she could make off the autographs in 3 days and was like, this is more than they're offering
probably.
me, so.
My gosh.
Yeah, people turned out.
That's so cool.
It was crazy.
Yeah, my history with Scream is a little less sacred, I'd say, at least compared to your story. I literally just.
I've always been so curious. So
okay,
I'm excited.
I don't remember the first time I watched it where I was. I think it was actually in college. I think I just turned it on with like my roommates or something. I remember. So I had seen the first two, I think, in college, and I liked the both of them, but I really liked the second one. I thought the second one was just so cool. It was funny. It had great characters, great horror. And it was campy and kind of a wink at the audience. And I really liked the meta humor of the franchise, and like we're poking fun at actual movies and stuff with our own original characters and sequels and sequel tropes. So I wasn't until I think 2 years ago that I watched Scream 3 for the first time. And then I didn't finish it because I think I was dog sitting my uncle's dogs. They were gone for the weekend. And so I fell asleep watching Scream 3. So I didn't, for the longest time, I didn't know what happened. And then I convinced my wife, was my fiance at the time, like, hey, let's watch all 4 Scream movies and let's go see Scream 5. And she was kind of hesitant because she doesn't like horror movies at all. And I had been trying to tell, like, okay, Scream is not that scary. It's not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or even something like Halloween.
Yeah.
It's campy. It's funny. You'll actually enjoy it. And she said,
and it's
yeah, exactly. It is more of a whodunit. So we watched all 3 of them, the first 3, and she loved all of them. I think she said she likes the third one the best. And funny enough, just speaking of people that we've met from the movies, she actually, I told you this, we were both working at a wedding where Scott Foley, who plays Roman Bridger in Scream 3, was the best man there. So I got to see him from a distance, but obviously I couldn't come up and talk to him or say like, hey, I liked you in Scream 3 where you died. And then,
oh man, that's really cool. It was
fun. And then we saw Scream 4, and I think Scream 4 is fine. It's definitely not the most memorable of the films, but it's fun. It's like the 4th Indiana Jones film. You know, you don't necessarily need it, but it's fun. It's nice to revisit these characters. And then talk of Scream 5 happened, 2019, 2020, right? Something like that. It came together pretty fast, I feel like. And they already confirmed that they were going to do like a new cast, but they were going to have the OGs back. David Arquette and Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox. And I should also say Kate was interested because she is a huge fan of Friends, and of course Courtney Cox is like one of the main leads in Friends. So she already was like, okay, my girl Courtney's in this. I gotta watch this.
Boy, is she in it too. She's great in those movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's awesome, especially when you compare her to like her character. I don't know if you've ever seen Friends, but if you see her, if you compare the 2 characters, like, wow, she's got some range. She starts out as like, perfectionist, ditzy, kind of dorky Monica in Friends, and then she goes to like initially who you think is like the worst human being in the world, Gail Weathers, but then you find out that she actually does have a heart and she does care about people and she cares a lot about Dewey, and that was funny. So Scream 5.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I watched an interview and Courtney Cox said that that was why she really wanted that part, was because she wanted to show, she's like, I want to do something really different. So I'm glad she got
Yeah.
to, because she's really fun to watch in that franchise.
She is great. So Scream 5 comes out literally last year.
Yeah.
Like it's almost been I think it's either been a full year or it's almost a full year. It came out in like February or March.
Mm-hmm.
And let's hear it. What were your thoughts on Scream 5 or Scream or just Scream 2022? Gosh, I hate that title.
Yeah. I very much was under that influence of, this is the first Scream movie I've seen in theaters. It was opening weekend. It was that kind of crowd.
It was your Force Awakens.
Yeah. So that definitely was like, I was already amped and I was excited. Do you want me to like not do spoilers, or are spoilers okay?
Oh yeah, no, you
Okay.
can do spoilers. Spoiler alert.
Cool.
Go for it.
So I initially like jumped out of my seat when they brought back Billy, kind of, as I like jumped out of my seat, because I've watched so many interviews with the actor Skeet Ulrich, and he talked about how because they would ask him, oh, have you seen like the sequels? He's like, actually, no, I never like watched any of the sequels. So you think he's just like one and done and out of there. But so seeing him there,
Yeah.
I was so excited. And Billy's my favorite Ghostface, so I love that character. So but as the movie went on, I was like, wait, this is a little corny. And I kind of hated it the more it went on.
Oh my gosh.
Which is sad, because the way I felt in that moment first seeing him, I've had very few moments in the theater like that, so it's really sad. But anyways, but yeah, I kind of felt like my biggest takeaways overall was there was a lack of cohesion with these, like, bringing, oh, Billy Loomis has like this long lost daughter, and I was thinking it was somehow connected to like the killers and their motivation, and it wasn't. And I felt like it
was just a coincidence.
Yeah, and I felt like they recycled the motivation for the killers, felt kind of recycled, like we've done this, and I was like, is this really the best you can do?
Yeah.
And also, I just
that being like just being super hyper toxic fans.
Yeah, like just
who wanted to like create new material for the sequels.
Exactly. It was I felt like it was a lot like Scream 4 of, oh, new but different, but I feel like Scream 4 did it better, to be honest. And it felt more personal because Jill was like, I want a piece of that pie that I saw my cousin get, so it just also, and I think I've talked to you about this, but like, I feel like what they really should have done, if they really wanted to be topical about the conversation with horror movies and the culture or whatever, would be to really tap into that like subgenre on the internet that like is obsessed with serial killers, like in real life. I know this was like a huge
Oh yeah, that was a great idea.
So there was, for people who don't know, there was like it was prominent on Tumblr, I believe, that girls would like romanticize like Jeffrey Dahmer, the Columbine shooters, like all these like actual horrible people who did horrible things, and they would romanticize them, and it's gross, and it's still there today. It's still very much there today. But I thought, like, okay, if you're going to introduce the idea of like, oh, Billy Loomis is kind of quote unquote back in the series in a way, like, make it these two chronically online girls who are obsessed with Billy and Stu, and
or make one of them gay,
stalking. Yeah, and start stalking.
So you can keep like, Jack Quaid in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't see that coming, so I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he could pull off, because he plays the dorky, lovable, soft guy really well. So I was kind of surprised. But so yeah, and make him obsessed with Sam because it's like, oh my gosh, it's, she's related to Billy. Like, so it all tied together. Because I feel like it didn't tie together. And then biggest thing for me was I just thought Sam was just a really bad character. Like I feel like everything about her was told in exposition. I didn't buy that she'd been through anything hard. And I feel like that was a combination of like, I didn't think the acting was that strong. I also don't feel like the wardrobe or the makeup, like just the way they made her look, she didn't look like someone who had been through anything hard or rough. She didn't look like someone who had a run-in with the police. Like,
she looked pretty the whole time.
Yeah, just kind of.
As opposed to like by the end of Scream 1, Sydney looks like completely trashed, bathed in blood and sweaty. Like, she just it's. I think you can just see it sometimes, like when you watch something. Like, that looks like someone who's been through something. And so I just everything was exposition and I think it's tragic coming from the Scream franchise because they have given us very iconic, like, women characters like Gail and Sydney. So it's like, why would you? And I feel like that internal conflict is so interesting. Like, I wish Sam would have been done better because that would have been a really cool character if she had done that right. I feel like her younger sister Tara was way more interesting to watch. And I know that's partly because it's funny you say that.
I was just going to say I think that's partly because Jenna Ortega is like an incredible actress. So
yeah, I was just about to say it's kind of hilarious how she has literally like risen to stardom in a year since that movie came out with not just Wednesday, but like she's been in a couple other things, hasn't she? Where she's kind of blown up. Oh, she was in that X, right?
Yep.
It's called X. Yeah, I'm getting confused with X and Pearl, but they're all the same. The same trilogy
Pearl's
or
a
franchise.
To X. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I know she's got like maybe that's fate, but like she got a couple like 1, 2, 3 punches in there. So it's kind of ironic that like she's objectively the better actress in the Scream as far as leads go in the Scream franchise. My issues with Scream 5 are very much in line with yours. I agree that it felt very very we've done this before, but also like, oh, somebody literally just watched Star Wars The Force Awakens and thought, let's do that.
Yeah.
Down to Dewey being the like out of work Han Solo that comes back to help the youngsters find the killer. Gail is literally like Princess Leia, like coming in the later half of the movie and like seeing Dewey and then watching him die. And Sydney comes in like she doesn't exactly get treated like Luke Skywalker, where he's in like the last 5 minutes of The Force Awakens and that's it. But she comes in at the last minute to save the day, and then like literally passes the torch on to Sam and I don't remember the name of Jenna Ortega's character, but it felt very on the nose that they were trying to target the Star Wars, not just redo the Star Wars formula of doing a reboot sequel, sequel, and they literally reference like guys, this is the reboot sequel. They do this all the time. Rambo, Star Wars, and then they doubled down, which I hated. They doubled down at the end where the Ghostfaces are literally just 2 toxic fans who hated the last movie and want to like create new material for the next one, which felt like a dig at people who don't like The Last Jedi. I don't like The Last Jedi. I don't know if you're like into Star Wars or if you've been following or even seen those movies.
I'm not up to date, so I don't have an opinion because I've not seen all of them. So
that's okay. I'm not gonna slander you or anything. A lot of people think because you're a Star Wars fan, you're like, you're not. You're not a You haven't even seen Star Wars? What's the matter with you? I'm not that kind of person.
Well, I appreciate that.
Last Jedi was basically a very they took Star Wars in a much different direction. They made Luke out to be this depressed, suicidal loser of a character, and he's supposed to be most people in general know that Luke Skywalker is this like beacon of hope that
Right.
Has inspired other filmmakers, inspired other characters. Like, he is the quintessential hero's journey blueprint. And the fact that you took that character and turned him into this, the complete opposite, it was just really tough to watch. And not like emotionally speaking, but I mean, for some people it was. For me, it was just like, this is just bad. This is like depressing. I don't want to see Luke Skywalker be a decrepit old man and then die at the end. Spoilers, sorry. I'll stop talking about
No,
Last
you're
Jedi now.
fine.
But anyways,
You're totally fine.
that movie sparked a like divide amongst the fans because of the way Luke was portrayed, the way the story was just taking so many different directions. It wasn't really a coherent story, it felt like. And it felt like they were like digging at the people who didn't like that movie and were very vocal about it, and vocal about the state of Star Wars up to this point. So it almost felt like it was, I agree with you that it almost felt like it was focusing on we know that the Scream films are supposed to follow movie tropes, especially sequel tropes, but this felt like sometimes they always have their foot in the horror world
Right.
as well, where they're trying to pay homage mostly to horror films and less to because franchises like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Freddy Krueger, those are synonymous with like sequel
Right.
21 or reboot 25 or something. It's like you think they would have went for that, like, oh, we're doing another like Scream 5. Oh no, like we've reached the point where like this could go on forever. Like there could have been something really cool about that, but the fact that they chose to choose something that was very it wasn't like super triggering to me or anything like that. I wasn't like oh my gosh, like ugh. I just thought like this is really dumb because you're portraying people who disagree with the movie as being like toxic fans who would actually go out and like hunt down Mark Hamill and try to put him in a situation where he can be the Luke Skywalker in a better movie or something like that. It's like
exactly
the way that all panned out, and the fact that it took place in, you would think that them going back to the original house, whose house I forget. I'm not as a big of a loyal of a fan as you, but whose house was that in the first movie?
Stu Macher,
okay,
Matthew Lillard's character.
Right. So the fact that they go back to Stu's house, remember in the trailers, was like a big deal, and I knew like, oh, that's the original house where it all started. What are they doing here? And the fact that it was just like, we have to recreate like the member berries and all that. And it just felt very like the reveal just did not I think meet the expectation of the previous great reveals of the past. Even Scream 4, which I know is not the most beloved but Scream 4 was still a really cool reveal and a really cool villain motivation and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it felt.
And I also agree with you about Neve Campbell. I think she's not just a great actress, but she's awesome in those movies. And the fact that I don't think she is aged a day. Like I saw her in seeing her in Scream 5. I was like, wait, is she de-aged? What's going on here? She looks exactly the same. Like I don't believe it I don't know how old she is, but I'm assuming she's probably pushing 50. She looks great for 50.
Yeah.
If she is.
Yeah, she's always been so like, I don't know. I feel like Sydney's always been a very strong and like sensible character, but not strong in a way of like, oh, I'm disregarding every bad thing that happens. Like, I think going back to my issue with Sam, it's like with Sydney, you can kind of see that she carries that trauma with her still, but
Yeah.
but she's still strong and smart and resourceful, and I I love her as a character, and yeah, Neve Campbell plays her so
That's
well,
cool.
and I always enjoy her performance anytime I rewatch the franchise. So it's gonna be sad that she's
Yeah.
not coming back for this new one, but
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with you. Like that's why she resonates so well with generations and people like you, because she is a character that is like a positive as opposed to being like a negative connotation to horror, where it's just like
right.
constantly reliving the horror, where like, you know, you have people like, and I'm not slandering Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie Strode or anything like that. She's awesome in her own right, but you know, that character is has a very like negative, very dark and almost depressing association with the horrors she experienced in those movies. Neve Campbell is somebody who she perseveres, you know, like despite trauma, despite things keep coming back, she keeps going, and she finds a way to regain peace. And like part of me felt like so incredibly happy for her, just like being like not associated with all this stuff and having like 2 kids in a stroller. I was like, I want to see that movie. I want to see like Neve Campbell or Sidney Prescott, like completely removed from the horrors of her life, at peace. She's married, she's successful, she's like put it behind her officially, and it's not come back. And it's not until she decides to bring herself back into the equation that she has to face her demons one last time or something. Like that's a story that I'd love to see. I think that's a good segue into Scream 6. So yeah, she didn't come back for this one, and it really does not excite me at all that she's not in this. I mean, you killed Dewey. You literally killed Dewey in the last one, and hated that. Honestly, I hated that. Again, like the blatant copying of Force Awakens was so obvious in that movie, and I was like, you really are going to just kill off one of the best characters in such a horrible way too. Like I understand like the point of it was to be emotional, but still it's like, are you kidding me? And then you're not going to bring back you're only going to bring back one of the 2 stars you have remaining in that franchise. It's from that original cast. It just really doesn't, it never sat well with me. Like after hearing that news, I thought good for her, because yeah, she's the Luke Skywalker of this franchise. Pay her whatever she is owed. Get her in get her back on screen, because it's Sidney Prescott.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's always the one that they come after. You know what I mean? So it's why would she's the focal point of all these stories and all different killers we've had, and so yeah, it doesn't make sense why they would try to like jib her, especially when you try to have conversations about like in Hollywood, like, oh, women deserve better, women deserve more, and it's like, okay, well, you're not paying your franchise's star, so I don't know what all the performative hubbub is if you're not even gonna like follow through. You know what I mean? Like where it counts.
Yeah. You could tell that they're trying to make these movies for cheap. I think I told you it's very indicative of that when you have your sequel come out a year. Like, Miley, this movie is coming out a year after the last one. That makes no sense.
I got so nervous when I heard that like the script wasn't even done, and then they're having to rewrite it because Neve Campbell's not coming back, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, and they were already filming with Courtney Cox on set apparently and stuff. I was like, okay, no. That's what this would have never happened under Wes Craven. God rest his soul.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. I'm not, I don't know. I'm obviously going to see it, but I don't have super high hopes because I wasn't like a huge fan of the 5th one. And now that Sydney's not even going to be in it, I'm like, well, okay. Like it feels a little more out of like
What's the point?
curiosity at this point. Like, how bad is it going to be? And it doesn't help that I guess they did the early access screening the other night, and so my Twitter feed was flooded with like very positive reviews, which I was like, don't do this to me. Like, you're going to get my hopes up. I also I read multiple reviews that talked about Mason Gooding, who played one of the Meeks twins.
Yeah, he was great. I really liked him.
Yeah. Well, a lot of different reviews were saying that he was like a standout in this one, which I have a celebrity crush on him. So I'm just like, don't tell me that it's good and he's great, because you're going to get my hopes up and then I'm going to go in and risk being disappointed. So I'm trying to like keep it minimized.
Right. I will have to say that a positive of Scream 5 was definitely the supporting cast. I think they were a really great like replacement for the originals. And even I mean Sam Carpenter, I think that's her character name, right? That's not her actual name.
Right.
Sam Carpenter, not the greatest actress, but we'll see if she improves.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. What is the plot? I don't even know. What is the plot of Scream 6? I know they're in New York.
I don't know.
And they're making a big deal about, it's Ghostface on a subway.
Yeah.
We're in New York now.
I just keep hearing on the trailer, and they say this with everyone, like, there's something different about this one. And it's like, you've been saying that for the last 4 movies.
That's what you said last time.
Yeah, apparently there's like a Ghostface shrine underground somewhere. So I don't know if we're going to, again, like, deal with another...
Like the ultimate fanboy.
Yeah, which, again, did you not already do that? Like, that's why I'm just kind of like I'm not excited. Although I will admit the teaser trailer with them on the subway looked really cool. So I was just like, don't show me things that are going to get me excited, because I have other evidence to like support that I probably won't like it.
Have you heard the rumors that Neve Campbell actually is going to appear in the end of the movie?
I think you were the one who told me about that.
Yeah, so I have nothing. This is all just stuff I've heard. I have nothing to back this up on, but I've heard from some rumor aggregators or people who like try to uncover leaks that I follow, that they couldn't get her in the movie, but they wanted to. They figured out a deal where she would appear in the end as like either in a post-credit scene or at the end to set up the next one, Scream 7, and that she's going to be back in a big way in Scream 7. I don't know if that's true.
That sounds like wishful thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely sounds like something they could do. Like maybe they were able to be like, all right, well, we can't afford to pay you this much in Scream 6, but we can promise you that in Scream 7 if you just do this cameo or whatever. I don't know. I think I don't know much about the story, but like if something were to happen where like, watch, I'm going to be right about this. Courtney Cox like dies in the movie or something, and Neve Campbell's literally like the last one to survive, and she has to come in and like, I'm going to avenge Dewey and Gale. I swear if they kill her, I'm done. I'm already probably not going to go see it. I'm probably just going to wait till it.
I'll text you after I see it.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Maybe I should just have you on the show and we'll just talk spoilers, and we can make a big deal out of my like unadulterated reactions to like you telling me
that would actually be really funny. I would love that.
Okay, stay tuned, guys. Miley's coming back on the show sooner than you expect. It's gonna happen.
Oh man, that would be fun. Well, I guess it's technically possible with having it be kind of a secret, because I remember watching interviews. I'm a huge interview junkie, so if I get fixated on an actor or filmmaker, I just binge their interviews.
Yeah, me too.
The actors Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard, who played Stu and Billy in the first, or Billy and Stu respectively in the first one, they still do conventions, they still do press, like they love talking about their characters in their movie. And people would ask, because I think we approached like a milestone anniversary for the first one. And so they were getting interviewed and they asked Skeet, like, oh, any chances like you'll return or or do you know anything about the fifth one or whatever? And he completely played it off like so cool. Like, I'm just as in the dark as everyone else. Like, you know, so, and I know he's not like a huge name that people are able to like stalk them like they did, you know, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire with their Spider-Man posters and their, oh, it's all Photoshop, guys,
It's
you know,
Photoshop.
so
Hilarious.
yeah. So I know they're not like big enough names that people are doing that kind of sleuthing, but the fact that he was able to play off and his role in the fifth one was a complete surprise. I guess, yeah, it could be possible that they're going to do the same thing with, you know, making us think that she's not in it. So,
yeah. What do you think about Matthew Lillard coming back? Because there have been rumors that I know he technically was in Scream 5. He was like on the commercial with the ghost face with the silver mask. He played that ghost face, but obviously it wasn't his character.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that actually.
They're like, yeah, it's a really fun Easter egg. They're like continuing like rumors or maybe wishful thinking that he's at the very least he's gonna come back because I believe he died with like the TV falling on his head. So he's not like Skeet where he got a bullet through his head or anything like that.
Yeah.
So he could still come back and he could be the ultimate ghost face.
Well,
how likely is that? How likely do you think that's going to happen? If not in this movie, at some point in this franchise?
That's actually really interesting you bring up because I know for the third one, the original story, I believe one of the ideas floating around that they wanted to do was Stu was actually in jail and he was sneaking letters out to high schoolers to continue the Ghostface legacy. And they scrapped that idea because they scrapped that idea for the third one because Columbine happened. And so they're like, we're maybe not going to talk about teenagers killing other teenagers. Scream 3 had a whole production mishap and rewrites and really? and a lot of it, the reason it leaned into the more goofy comedic aspects was because of like the tragedy at Columbine, because they, you know, teens killing each other left a bad taste in their mouth. So they were like, let's do some. So, so I know that was an idea that circulated. So I think that I understand why people are like, it could happen. And I'm sure some of it is wishful thinking, because you're right. We didn't see a bullet go through his head. So who's to say? I mean, they brought Kirby back from the fourth one, even though she got stabbed. Yeah. So it's like, but I feel like they brought her back because she was like a fan favorite. I don't know if that was always.
That's Hayden Panettiere, right?
Yeah.
Wait, did she die in Scream 4? Or did she just get stabbed?
She got stabbed. We never saw her die. So people were like, she could come back. And then I feel like enough people were like, she could come back. And so they brought her back for this one. So
I did not even think, I totally forgot she was in the movie. And maybe that's to offset the fact that they killed Dewey.
Yeah.
Hey, we brought back Hayden Panettiere.
Right.
Please see our movie.
That's kind of what it's feeling like, which again, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. In a week, I'll have seen it.
In a sentence, what is your, or in a couple sentences, however long you want to take, what are your thoughts going into Scream 6? Are you excited, nervous? What do you think?
I'm predispositioned to not like it, even though I went on a whole tirade of how you shouldn't go into something not liking it. I'm trying not to have my hopes up. I think that's a good way to put it. I would love to be pleasantly surprised. I think that's also why I'm keeping my expectations low, because if it is really good, then I'll be way more apt to be excited. I also have to just accept the fact that any fan service they do I'll probably be susceptible to it since it worked on me in the last movie. um, so,
Yeah.
sorry. But I'd say overall, I don't have high hopes, but I would love to be proven wrong. I would love it to be amazing. I want it to be good. I just don't. Those aren't where my expectations are.
Yeah, I'd say I'm definitely in the same boat as you. So Disney released 2 trailers for 2 movies, both one coming out in theaters, one coming out in Disney Plus. And to me, at least, it shows why one's coming out in theaters and one is coming out to Disney Plus. Which is also to say, one I'm looking forward to, one I am not looking forward to at all. Let's start with the first one, or the one that I think the both of us are looking forward to the most, Haunted Mansion. And not to be confused with The Haunted Mansion,
right?
Which I guess is to distinguish it from the Eddie Murphy movie. So yeah, Disney is making a new live-action Haunted Mansion movie, which I have been excited about since they announced it was going to happen. The film stars where's the cast list? Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Rosario Dawson, Chase W. Dillon, and Dan Levy, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Jared Leto. Oh, Jared Leto's in this?
That's everyone's been reaction like.
I did not know Jared Leto was in this. Wow, yeah. I knew Jamie Lee Curtis was going to be in it. And do we know who she's playing?
Isn't it Madame Leota?
Is she playing Madame Leota?
I think so.
Oh, that's perfect.
I had the IMDb page up. I think that's who it is.
That is perfect. I love that casting.
Yeah.
And Jared Leto is playing the Hatbox Ghost, which I guess makes sense.
I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, she's Madame Leota. I just checked IMDb.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
Right?
So the trailer is the movie is about Rosario Dawson and her son move into a haunted mansion. Why? I don't know, but they do. Desperate times, I guess. And immediately find out it's haunted. And I guess they assemble a madcap team of various spiritual experts, such as a priest played by Owen Wilson, a paranormal investigator played by Lakeith Stanfield, a mystic played by Tiffany Haddish, and a historian played by Danny DeVito. And chaos ensues. Thoughts on the trailer, Miley?
I'm really excited. Just seeing the trailer. I think I really liked the visuals it had. It felt like it really pulled from the ride and the sort of like centerpieces in the ride and the rooms and or set pieces, not centerpieces. The set pieces from the ride and the characters. And I also loved how it looked like it was very much playing with the idea of like the stretching room and the illusions of it. And I think there was a line in the trailer that said something about like the house likes to play tricks on people. So I love the idea of the mansion being a character. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you ever watched The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. The house in that one very much had the same, like, it was treated as like a character, and it was very much, it would play tricks on the people in the house. And am I just going crazy? Am I seeing an illusion?
Right, yeah.
That looked really cool. I'm more interested. I wish I saw more of kind of the story and like the premise. Because I feel like the trailer was all visuals of like, ooh, this is what we're gonna get. Because I think lore is really fun, and if you have something like the Haunted Mansion, there's a lot of different directions you can go. So, but so far, I'm excited.
Yeah,
It looks
absolutely.
visually it looks really cool. So those are just kind of my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this looks very fun. I'm a big fan of the original film. I think that did a good job of invoking the same tone, but this movie looks like it's really going in on adapting some of those great moments, like the going, like you're going down, but the ceiling is rising. That was
Stretching,
always
yeah.
one of my that's always one of my favorite parts of the ride, and yeah, the pictures, like being alive and stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things that are in the ride that they're keeping secret for us. One of my favorite parts of the original film was the quartet of tombstones.
Yes, that part was so fun.
I love that. I thought they did a good job with it in the original film, and I hope they do that in this film because it's a centerpiece. I love the cast, a really fun, diverse cast. Never going to say no to Owen Wilson at this point in my life. He's so funny, and I feel like he's had a really great resurgence with the Loki series on Disney Plus.
For sure. I honestly, I'm a funny enough. I think the cast, well, not the cast itself, but I'm kind of interested / a little nervous that like it's predominantly like this adult cast of like big names that mostly adults recognize, and there's like only one kid character, it looks like, because I mean, I know there were only 2 in the Eddie Murphy one, but even then it was like a family, and they were kind of this team, the brother and sister, and I don't know, I think what I'm worried will happen is like they're relying too much on like a star-studded ensemble to like compensate for something else, which I don't want to happen. Also, it's like if you're basing it off of like a Disney ride and a kids ride, it's like I don't know. It kind of makes me raise an eyebrow that there's only one kid character, and I know that doesn't really mean anything because you have Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, but but that's why I'm kind of interested, like what the plot is going to be, or are we going to rely too much on Owen Wilson being quippy, or Danny DeVito being quirky, or like Tiffany Haddish with her one-liners? Like you know what I mean? It's like I don't want that to just be like, oh, we just get like a cast in here that they're talented, they can just kind of basically do their thing and compensate for something else in the movie. I know this doesn't have any like basis. This is just me being nervous because it's like my favorite ride at Disney. So, but those are just kind of my initial thoughts. They're all talented, so I'm excited to see them like play off of each other.
It all depends on how they interact with each other and what the story is surrounding them. It does have a almost a Clue. Like, have you seen the movie version of Clue?
I haven't, but I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like the ensemble.
That is like one of the greatest ensemble movies I have ever seen. Who? Oh my gosh, who's in that movie? Who?
Tim Curry.
Who's the main dude? Yes, thank you, Tim Curry. Tim Curry's in it. Christopher Lloyd is in it. A lot of great like character actors were in that movie from the time that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it has that vibe to me of being like a great like character ensemble. But yeah, I think it's a valid concern. Like, oh, is this one kid just here to, throw around kid jokes, or is there actually like a story pertaining to him and his mom's relationship and their connection to the house? Because the Eddie Murphy movie, despite its faults, was at least a good movie about a father who had to go through this haunted mansion to learn to want to be closer to his family and prioritize his family over work.
Right.
And yeah, you kind of hope that there's something, some sort of heartfelt message that kids can get attached to that will carry over.
Absolutely.
Did you see the original movie? What were your
I
thoughts
loved
on
the original
film?
movie. I have to revisit it because people talk about it that it's like bad or corny, but I loved it growing up. Um, I thought it had so many memorable scenes, and um, it's I thought like the interwoven lore was really cool too, and it
Hmm.
does a great job of like the A line or A story, B story. You know, you got the kids who befriend the ghosts, and they're trying to like solve
Yeah,
these
yeah.
mysteries, and then Eddie Murphy's like in all these hijinks, and I think it has some spooky moments too. Like the mausoleum scene was always like, oh my gosh, that's like really
Yeah.
creepy. And that's what you want from a haunted mansion movie. So I'm hoping that they're able to capture like the whimsical, like what why people love the Disney ride, but also kind of throw in
Hmm.
some like spooky elements in there to just to keep it truly like haunted, you know. So, but yeah, I
Absolutely.
really I like the Eddie Murphy one. It's tons of fun. It's got really cool atmosphere, in my opinion. So
Yeah. I agree. I 100% agree. I think we've lost touch with how to make funny, goofy, but still heartfelt movies. Because a lot of people are
yeah,
like, "Oh, like oh, I don't want you to do the. It needs to be scary. It needs to be funny, or it has to be like super scary and like kind of funny." That was a
right.
great movie where like yeah, you combined a lot of like like corny, funny Disney tropes. It was a family movie. I mean, like, yeah, it
It
was
was.
scary, but it was a great movie that families could go with, and it, again had a great moral that everybody can relate to. And like, I think at the time, I was one of those people who were like, this is kind of not great. But I think looking back on it, thinking and seeing how rare that type of movie is nowadays, I think Kate and I watched it this previous Halloween, and we thought this is great.
Hmm.
This is so fun, and it's
Yeah,
everything like you said. It's everything you'd want from a haunted mansion movie, and I think this will probably do the same. Hopefully, as long as
yeah,
they play their cards right.
absolutely. I do like that they are. It's not just like a remake of a movie based on the ride. It's like they are doing a new story. So that's the intrigue
Hmm.
for me is like, okay, so we saw how they did it with One Direction like many years ago. Let's see another direction they take it and what the story's going to be. So I'm excited.
Mm. The Haunted Mansion, starring One Direction.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I did that.
That's a movie.
I would love to see that movie. I was a
Yeah, that's like the equivalent of like the Beatles in
yeah,
uh like when they did like their like I don't know how many like they did like several movies where there was like just them running around London
yeah.
and doing like random stuff. And it's like, oh, we're the Beatles.
I was a huge One Direction fan in high school, so if there was ever a Haunted Mansion One Direction crossover, like I'm probably behind it, let's be real, but that would be fun.
Yeah, One Direction, the reunion, Haunted Mansion.
Wow.
One day,
One day
we'll
only.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up with I don't know how you feel about this one, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But the next trailer that we're going to talk about is for Peter Pan and Wendy. This is the live action. Eventually, we were going to get to this.
Hmm.
This is the live action Disney redo of Peter Pan. I am here to say I don't like it. And yes, I think it is very explicitly woke.
There it is.
um, yep, there it is. So this is one where I do think that Disney's agenda is very on the nose. And I don't have any gripes with the cast or the actors or anything like that. It's not their fault. The Lost Boys, not even just that it's like, oh, but you're not all boys. Like, yeah, so what if we're Lost Boys and girls? And the Lost Boys in the movie had a very distinct look. That was fun. And the fact that even if you're going to do like, oh, the Lost Girls and Lost Boys, why not why not replicate that look? It's so fun and so iconic and synonymous with that movie. And then I know people are going to complain about Black Tinkerbell. I know I haven't really got into like my thoughts on gender swapping, but my general opinion is if you're going to adapt something, especially from animation with a very distinct look, just follow the animated material. I don't see why we need to, like, I understand like representation is important and all that, but you don't have to make every character that was originally white a different ethnicity, just to like, I don't know, it just seems like very obvious pandering, because people don't want to see these movies because that. People want to see these movies because they want to see these classic characters done in a faithful but new way. And like the way you see them, like Tinkerbell has, and like Tinkerbell, for example, in this trailer, she has an iconic look, you know, like the blonde hair, the green tunic, whatever you call it. I don't know. To me, that's like, why I don't understand why you would try to do that in a way that is obviously not like how it was in the movie. And it's not because like black people can't be Tinkerbell or anything like that. I'm not saying anything like that. But Disney is like specifically adapting their iconic version of this story, and why they would want to deviate from that. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because clearly people don't like it. You can feel free to disagree with me if you want. But that's how I like feel about that in general. It's nothing to do with the actors. It's nothing against the actors. They're not the ones that are making these choices. Like if they get offered, you know, a role like this, of course they're going to take it. But it comes off, I think, as very obvious with their intent, and then it just diminishes the joy of wanting to see the original material adapted in a way that in live action, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'll start just by saying I know Peter Pan is like super special to a lot of people. I don't particularly have like an affinity for it. So that's kind of just, I know we were talking about Haunted Mansion and like that's my favorite ride. So there's obviously kind of that attachment. That's the word I'm looking for. And funny enough, the thing I saw people complaining about on Twitter was how the color grading was really dark. They were like, Disney, can you please like brighten your movie? Like, because they were like, ooh, first look at, and I think they, even for like Little Mermaid, like first look at
Ursula,
like Ursula and the little, and it's like,
where is she? I can't see
like,
her.
Yeah. And or it's like Ariel and Prince Eric in the boat, and you're like,
oh, I know.
I can't
agree.
see anything. It's so darkly color graded. So it's so funny because my timeline was all about people complaining about the color grading and just how you can't like see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the trailer itself, it looked, I don't know, I feel like it's all leaning too much on this potential, because I'm like, this looks like it could be really fun, but then it's like, how many Disney live actions have actually been good? Yeah. Really good. Also, I found out that the director, David Lowery, I know he did Pete's Dragon. I've not seen that one, but
it's okay.
He did, okay. Yeah, I've not seen it. I feel like it kind of just got swept under the radar too. Yeah. But he directed The Green Knight, which was like an A24, very different movie, but I love that movie. And so my instinct was to like get excited, but then I'm like, okay, both Disney and Marvel too, it's like if they attach like a director, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get their vision across. So I had to kind of stop and like not get excited of like, oh, this director whose previous work I like. It's like, well, he's gotta check the Disney boxes. Like Disney has a look, you know, like you can't really, it's like how, you know, yeah, it's like how, you know, Chloe Zhao's movie Nomadland won an Oscar for Best Picture, and then they put her on the Eternals. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know?
I never saw that one either.
It's like it's really not. It's boring. I made the mistake of doing a double feature of watching Dune, although it was a rewatch. I watched Dune and then I watched Eternals in the same day.
Oof.
It was
started out strong
bad
and
comparison.
then we just
nosedive. It was, but sorry, I don't want to get off topic. But so I feel like just kind of initially not having any attachment to Peter Pan, I was like, this looks like it could be fun, but then I'm like, do I have any hope?
Yeah, how fun could it be?
As far as and I think as far as the things you touched on, that's interesting about the Lost Boys and Girls, because I think when I saw it, my initial reaction was more of like, you know, you're the Lost Boys in Neverland. There's kind of this world where there's like a free for all and there's like no rules, and so to me that joke played more off of like this doesn't make sense, but they're kids just doing what they want. So it's like, yeah, I'm a girl, but we still call ourselves the Lost Boys, and it's like, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, yeah, we don't care. Like, so it kind of played off, like, to me, just having just watched it and not hearing any like discourse about it, that's kind of how it played off, of like, okay, these are just kids and they've grown up with no supervision, and like, who's gonna tell them no? Like, it was kind of that. That's how it played off to me.
Sure, yeah.
And my opinion with like the, you know, casting different races than the original source material, like, I feel like if it's not, if, you know, your race or your culture isn't inherent to your character, or if, like, there's no like background or like significance, I personally am just of the opinion of like, in general, you get the best actor for the job. So I lean more to like, I'm gonna give it the casting a chance because someone could embody a character like really well. I mean, there's been so many examples before of like, I think the most iconic example is like Heath Ledger as the Joker. Like, people were like, what are you doing? Like, this is like such a bad casting. What? And then but then you see him do it and you're like, okay, that embodiment too. And I think too, even like Austin Butler as Elvis, like, he looks nothing like Elvis. I don't think he's facial it's all different, but the way he embodies that persona, and it's all in the performance and the acting. And so I typically tend to be more like, forgiving, or like benefit of the doubt, I think is the phrase. It's like, I want to see it, and if they embody this character, if they can transport me to Neverland, and oh my gosh, that is Tinkerbell, you know, like, that's, I feel the sassiness,
the essence
I feel
of Tinkerbell.
That's more where I lie on that, and that's just kind of in general, because I know the adaptations are interpretations that can be different, and sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. But I think I like giving the chance of, okay, this isn't replicated 100% from the source material, but sometimes you don't want like a shot for shot like remake, because then it becomes like, well, why did you even do this? So I think differences, I try to take that with a grain of salt, of like any differences at all, not even just casting, but just, you know, but sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So that's more kind of how I feel about the broad issue in general. I know, even circling back to a show I talked about earlier, there was a lot of discourse about The Last of Us, like the character of Ellie, the little girl, that people were really upset because she did not look like the the video game version.
The original girl.
Yeah, and now that the show's gone on, people are like, oh my gosh, she embodies the character so well. She has like her own take on it, but it's still that like essence of this character. So that's just kind of my rule of thumb of like, I can't say till I've seen it of, wow, that was a great Tinkerbell, or don't know why they casted her, but you know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a valid argument. I absolutely there. I mean, heck, Pedro Pascal in The Last of Us.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think the character he plays, Joel, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a white guy in the video games, and he's obviously Pedro Pascal is obviously Mexican, but he does look very, almost eerily similar to the character in the game. And from what I've heard, it's the same thing. He embodies Joel very well. So I think there are absolutely exceptions to the rule, and I'm sure there are I'm almost certain there are race swapped actors out there who have been in iconic roles and have made them synonymous with them and kind of have transcended race. For the life of me, I can't think of one example right now, but I know they're out there.
Did you like Gordon in the Batman?
I did. Oh,
Commissioner
yes.
Gordon.
That's a great example.
We were talking about the Batman earlier, and I was like,
right. Yes. That's a very good example. Yes, I thought I thought I guess I have a different opinion on the Batman movies at this point, so I wasn't as like upset about something like that because, and this is not to like diminish the rule across the board, but like because Batman has kind of become our generation's Sherlock Holmes in the sense that there have been so many iterations of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. That it's like, yeah, sure, cast Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. I don't care. We already have like every.
I see what you're saying.
We already have other iconic portrayals of him. Like, what's another? That's like kind of different. I didn't even really mind when they remember when they did Sherlock Holmes in modern day, but it was a woman who played like Joan Watson or something like that. She was like an Asian woman.
I don't remember that at all.
It was a show called Elementary.
Oh,
you'll have to look that up.
That totally flew under my radar.
It absolutely was trying to capitalize on the Sherlock show with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
I see.
And that obviously that was huge. That was initially, I think this was before it was such a sensitive topic. I thought that's kind of dumb, like recasting John Watson as a woman. Never mind the fact that she's Asian, but just a woman. Then I watched the show and I thought, oh, this is actually kind of fun. It's a totally different take. We've had so many, like, for some people, like their Sherlock Holmes is when you have a character that's been adapted so many times, at a certain point, I think it adds itself to reinterpretation. Like for some people, their Sherlock Holmes is Benedict Cumberbatch. For some people, it's Robert Downey Jr. For some reason, it's the earlier movies. For some, it's this guy on that I don't remember who played him on Elementary, but it's that show. For some people, it's just the books. People don't even watch the movies. They don't care. So like at a certain point, it doesn't really matter to me if a character has been done over and over so many times. Reinterpretation, especially when everybody can say like, "Oh, this is I prefer this version. I like this version," and like Batman as an example, like my favorite Batman is like Ben Affleck, and I think they did him really well. I do not care what you do with Batman going forward. I have like my guy who played him to the best of his ability. Of course, it's kind of going off the topic of race, although not really.
Well, no, I
like look.
I think that totally makes sense of the conversation of like why people get attached to like the iconic look of someone, and if you don't have it, it's people miss it. And I think you bring up a good point of how that's been different or done so many times with other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think in Disney's case, there's no reason why they shouldn't try to like adapt. And I'm not trying to advocate for like a shot for shot remake of Peter Pan. I think Kate and I talk about this all the time. The Cinderella remake is the perfect example of how every Disney remake should be approached. Like they expanded on the story in a great way that wasn't present in the original, and then they adhered to the beats of that original movie, and the look and everything, and it just felt it was a wholesome, heartfelt message. There was no like obvious agendas in there or anything like that. In fact, they added characters who were of a different ethnicity from the time that were actually great characters. There was like the prince had like a right-hand man. I think he was played by a black man.
Yeah.
He was great because he was kind of like he was almost like the prince's conscience. I think I haven't seen this movie in forever, so I don't know for sure if what I'm saying is right, but he had a presence to him. And I thought like, this guy's great. I love this character. I love this actor. I know sometimes like when you add an actor of diversity or of a different race into a movie, it doesn't always translate. Like the live action Pinocchio, they did that where they tried to give Pinocchio a love interest. And it was really bad. And that's not
I've not seen it, but I've not. Are you talking about the Disney one?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard not great things about it, so I'm not seen it.
It may be the worst of those live action remakes that they've made.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So and at this, I think you brought this up. At this point, the live action remakes have just been synonymous with a lack of quality. And as much as I was excited for Beauty and the Beast at the time, that was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, these movies can actually be horrible.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Beauty and the Beast was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's mine and Kate's favorite too. To see it be, and that I think was a very blatantly obvious, like, oh, this is us doing an agenda in this movie. Like it was very on the nose, and it was already like what they quote unquote wanted to do. It was already present in the source material, so it felt very try hard. So it's and it took you out of it. So yeah, absolutely. So you bring up a really good point about like there's an opportunity for the characters to be for the actor to embody the character despite like physical appearance. And again, I don't want to advocate for like a black actress can never ever play Tinkerbell. But with Disney's specific adaptation, obviously there is a specific look that they are trying to go for, and there's a specific look that people want to see. And so you do risk people being turned off if it does not adhere to the original style. And that includes casting choices, and that includes horrible color grading. Yeah. Also, also just so people know that my issues with the film aren't just limited to the culture war aspects, but I just do not think Jude Law looks good as Captain Hook at all. I couldn't
see a good shot of him, but
yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, maybe
I'm kind of like
maybe he'll wow. I mean, I'm not even sure I'm going to see this movie. Maybe he'll wow us with something. But I have a feeling this movie is going to be. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those films where you're going to see a lot of cringy clips being retweeted on Twitter, like Pinocchio.
Yeah, well, and I think Peter Pan itself has been adapted like so many times, and I think that's also why I felt kind of detached when I watched the trailer, because I'm just like, like we're not satisfied with any of the adaptations we've had, so it's like, okay, like,
yeah, that's true.
They think, and I know I know some people took issue with like the name Peter Pan and Wendy, but I feel like they have to sort of differentiate between Pan or Hook or the early 2000s live adaptation of Peter Pan we got. It's like, I'm kind of not surprised they changed the name a bit, because it's like, yeah, there's been so many adaptations of the story in this movie that you kind of have to set yourself apart, because there's been so many people have tried like retelling the story before, and I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I guess my only counter argument to that would be, why didn't they do that with all the other live action? Like, why didn't they do like Aladdin and Jasmine, or Cinderella and whatever the princess name was? You know?
Yeah.
It I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not as bothered by the name.
Yeah. I think it's, well, because you kind of technically, like, Peter Pan is like the main character, but it's really like you're following Wendy, and it's like her quarrels with growing up, and like, I don't want to get older, and she's kind of she's
true.
faced with that. You know, Peter Pan's just like living his life as a kid. Like, there's not really any like he doesn't have the same arc that Wendy does, that we are supposed to like connect with as an audience, if that makes sense.
Right. No, you bring up a good point, especially since like in the movie he doesn't really change. He's given the opportunity to change, but he rejects it. And he learns to, because the movie ends with, I believe it ends with Wendy and her brothers going back to London, and the Lost Boys are there, and they want to go back. They want to have mothers, they want to have parents, and the whole you bring up a great point, because the whole movie is about not wanting to grow up. And this is kind of another issue I have with the girls in the Lost Boys. So it was written in the original source material that the reason why there are no lost girls on Neverland is because, like, I guess the Lost Boys were like boys who fell out of their prams when they were babies, and girls were smart enough to not do that. And so
I didn't
the reason
hear about this part of, I'm not super familiar with like the ultimate source material, so I didn't know about this.
Yeah, neither am I, but I thought it was an interesting detail. But the reason why it's so significant is because when Wendy comes to Neverland and she's like telling the Lost Boys about their parents and how much she misses home, like she has taken on this motherly role that she knows that she's been avoiding and has to take on eventually. That's part of growing up, is becoming a mother. So she embraces that. She learns to embrace that side of her by encouraging the Lost Boys to come back and you know, be adopted or have families or whatever. So it almost not just undercuts like the Lost Boys' significance, but also her, like, it not just undercuts like the significance of her as a girl in a group of boys who need to understand the significance of having a mother who loves them. Like, that is what's kind of lost. And that's not to say that doesn't happen with girls, of course not. But there is like great significance to her presence in Neverland. That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You do bring up a good point with the name change, because, and it's not really a big deal, because like you said, she was already like secondary protagonist, and she is the one who has the biggest arc. And even in, did you see the like early 2000s Peter Pan?
I did, like, when it came out, but I've not seen it since, so I don't remember anything.
Yeah, that's my definitive Peter Pan movie. I love that movie as a kid, and again, I'm not a big Peter Pan fan per se, but like I watched the original growing up a lot, the Disney version. I watched that, and like I guess in a certain sense, like, to bring this full circle, do what you want with Peter Pan. I don't care, because that's my version. At the same time, I can understand why people in general are disappointed with this. And there is a lot to it, ranging from the culture war aspects of it to just the quality of the film, which again is synonymous with Disney live action remakes at this point. And boy, I can't wait for the Russo brothers Hercules TikTok adaptation.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Are Are you talking about does this have to do with the end of Love and Thunder?
No, oh no. Sorry, this is Disney's live action remake of Hercules. They're saying it's inspired by
Oh,
TikTok because they say people consume TikTok regularly, and we want to try to experiment with this film and make it a
what does that mean?
I don't know what it means. It
And why
literally sounds like
Hercules?
nonsense. Oh, I don't know. That's another one of my all-time favorites. So I'm already just like I'm done. Go ahead,
Oh,
ruin Hercules.
yeah.
I don't
Oh,
care.
that's how I feel about Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, I'm dreading
They're
that
not
one too.
they're not gonna no. The original is way too like or well, okay, the cartoon Disney, not the original, but the Disney
Hmm.
version, the cartoon one that we have, it's already so nuanced and complex. They're not gonna
Oh yeah.
waste their time trying to lean into that at all. It's
Oh yeah.
I'm not
All
my heart
all that
breaks.
subtext is just gonna be
It's gonna be
lost.
gone. Yeah.
It's gonna be a horrible CGI Quasimodo, and
Oh my
there's
gosh.
gonna
Yeah.
be I can already predict. I'm gonna predict how that movie's gonna turn out, and then we'll see
It's gonna be
in
so
like three
bad.
years time if anything I predicted is gonna be right.
Yeah. It's gonna be just diluted to this nice feel good
Yeah.
like message that we've seen before instead of like a really dynamic look at humanity and love and faith and religion and like how that all
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
to life in humanity. They're not gonna do that. Are you kidding? I'm
No.
sorry, I'm already mad.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, I think there are a lot of reasons to be concerned about Peter Pan. But I also think the Disney knows what they have because otherwise it wouldn't be going straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I that's become kind of the big,
Like we don't
sign.
believe in this movie.
Yep.
Watch it on Disney Plus. I mean, it's coming out in a
Yeah.
month too. Like there's no build up or
Right.
anything. At
Yeah,
least
the
with
trailer was just released, so it's like,
at least with
wow.
Haunted Mansion, I believe that's coming out in late summer. So they have some
Oh,
belief that that'll do big.
there's too many grown-up Haunted Mansion nerds like myself that are like obsessed with that ride. They're like, we want all of those adults and their hard-earned cash to come see it
Yeah.
in their Disney ears and their backpacks and
Hmm.
all
You
that.
got to talk to Kate. She's a big fan of Haunted Mansion too.
I love Haunted Mansion. Yeah, it's so good.
The
I
the
really hope the
ride
movie's good.
specifically.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love the ride. So I hope the movie's good because that would just make my little heart
Me too.
happy.
I think there's a like 50%. I'd say a 65% chance it's going to be decent to very good.
hmm I'm hoping they really capitalize on the fact that it's like, even though it's based on the ride, it's like they're doing an original story. It's not like, oh, we're adapting one of our cartoon movies from, the
Right,
60s or
right.
whatever.
It looks, yeah, and it looks like there's actually that level of craftsmanship in there that you would hope they would put into a Haunted Mansion movie.
Exactly. So I'm got high hopes for that
Hmm.
one.
Alrighty. Well, that just about does it. We talked a lot longer than I thought we
We
were going to,
did.
but I think this was a phenomenal conversation. So much we hit a lot. I'm very very surprised at how much we hit, but no, it was great conversation, Miley. Thanks so much for coming on, and I would love to have you back
Absolutely.
in the coming weeks to talk about Scream 6.
I would love to. That would be a lot of fun. Or any type of future episodes you want. This was fun. I really enjoyed this. So thank you
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to follow your stuff online? If you
Ooh,
even want to.
if no, my Twitter feed's crazy. There's too many memes on there. I am on Twitter, but tread lightly, tread carefully. No, I put some of my shorts and reels on YouTube under Miley Durbin, so I'm on there if you want to find me. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter. I also have a TikTok account. I don't post super frequently, but I have a little, videos of the horror conventions I went to. I actually have a video of meeting Neve Campbell, so you can find me on there too if you want.
Nice. Well, we'll make sure to link all that in the description of this episode, and you guys can follow me on this YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You know where to find me. And then follow me on Twitter at TheDivvy75 and Instagram at official Vince Salerno. Thanks for tuning in, guys, watching, listening, wherever you tuned in. Let me know if you like the video format. This is actually the second time I've done video podcast. So let me know if you guys like it, you want to see more of that, or if I should just, give up and stick to audio. To which I'll probably ignore that advice anyways. Okay. All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for listening. God bless.